This season doesn't seem to realize that nobody liked the other 2 seasons because they throw you right back into this. There's no reset. There's no status quo that they reestablish. It's just immediately, this could be episode 11 of last season.
And it begins in a way that I was like, did you guys step through a portal stone or something? Because season 3 feels like it had a different season 2 to me. The way they're all just friendly with each other. Like, this is the first time Rand is really meeting Elaine in the show. I know they would have travelled back together.
They travelled back from the Middle East or wherever they were last episode.
Falm.
Sure, they travelled back from Falm on a boat that took them a month, and they all apparently bonded on this boat in the last month. Several times this episode, though, they reference, oh, on the boat when we were doing this. Oh, I used to see you every morning on the boat. I'm like, this boat is way too important, apparently, for you to have skipped it. If you need to bring it up every fucking sentence between these characters.
It's not in the book.
We're immediately in the White Tower, which has some of the most lore attached to it, which means it's even more confusing unless you've just watched a recap. So I recommend watching a recap before this.
Or reading the books.
So we're doing a court scene, basically.
They've got all the Argers together.
Leandrin Sedai thinks that she can overthrow the Wizard Mother because she did the wrong thing when, like, let Rand go, and none of them can lie, so you're thinking, like, oh, the court scene should go pretty smoothly. But we already know that Leandrin is actually a bad guy.
She's a dark friend.
And we've always known she was a bad guy because of her jawline, and there's no hiding how evil you
she
are.
has the modern face thing.
Modern face?
When, like, some actors can't be in, like, period pieces because they have modern face.
Oh, she just looks like a bad guy to me.
Yeah,
like, even when they were like, oh, the Red Witches.
Yeah.
I tried. Do you know the Bechdel test? How it's 2 women trying to have a conversation without men? This whole show, instead of the Bechdel test, it's like have a single conversation without making up a word that I've never heard of. Because like there's a new terminology every goddamn sentence they're talking in.
Moraine wants me to go to Tyr.
One of the most powerful Sa'angreal is there, the Stone of Tyr, Kalandor.
Manchima is Sunday Manchima.
And I'm like, you need a glossary for this show. It's insane.
There actually is a glossary for the book series.
I assume the book is a lot, at least easier, because you can stop if you need to. But in this, they just never touch on anything again. They'll just bring something up.
And he was writing in an age where someone might pick up book 5. Like, you know, there are people who do that.
Well, he also didn't write the number on the book, so that's on him.
So in every book he will go.
He'll re-explain himself.
You know, the Aes Sedai, here's how male power works. And for some fans, when you're binging, you're on book 9, he's telling you how the one power works. Again, you're like, I know.
Well, this show could probably do with that, honestly, because the one power makes sense because it's so, like, simple, but there's so many other terms.
They've slowly improved it. Like, in this, you're meant to have the colour changes.
I think they've added more detail to it, yes. I wouldn't say it looks much better. The wire work was better when they lift her up, because basically, Leandrin says, I'm going to send you to prison, Mother, and then Mother says, no, we literally have a testimonial from Nynaeve here.
And she doesn't even speak. She just walks in and they're like, oh, I didn't anticipate this.
She has an evil bad guy line. I tried. And then tries to cast magic. Then we have a big fight, which is the messiest fight I've ever seen in my life.
But they want you to go, whoa, turns out that bald, creepy looking chick is a bad guy.
It hurt to look at. It's playing in the background right now. I had no idea who was winning. I had no idea who even the bad guys was.
Egwene and Nynaeve, in the show, we haven't had many scenes of them just doing lessons. I wouldn't have minded, just so we as the audience could visually learn how these powers work.
All the naives do is mop the floor.
Well, that's what the novices do.
Probably would be good visually to show us something. I'm not sure if we've ever heard of the Black Aja before in the show.
I don't think we have. I'm currently reading the books, so I've heard of the Black Aja.
They do a small cutaway to the other women in the stands.
They play surprised.
I was thinking it was, oh, you wouldn't expect one of your own to turn against you suddenly. And you're like, geez, this has escalated quickly.
Join me!
A bunch of people jump forward, and then a bunch of them get one hit. Like, one lady gets cut in half because we need a bit of brutality.
Because everyone loves Game of Thrones.
And everyone's casting shields and shooting magic. The one power visually is a mess. This looks messier than that one fight in Harry Potter 5, how they're all just like casting little smoke bizzles at each other.
Yes. I've always struggled, as I'm writing my own book right now, whenever I think of, how do wizards duel?
Dumbledore and Voldemort, that's the coolest fight.
That would be it, right? They have to be doing these grandiose things, or else it's just throwing purple lightning at blue lightning.
Yes.
It's like, well, why does anything matter if you're just throwing energy at each other?
And this isn't even color-coded either. There is a lot of different colors, but I don't know whether the bad guys have one color, the good guys have another, because they're all just... It's seeming like shields are one color.
It's meant to be like green is earth, Like it's did they even told you that?
No.
The one power is 5 elements. It's like Avatar the
Okay.
Airbender, except the 5th one is spirit.
Yep.
So when you heal someone, it's a mixture of like water and spirit and stuff
Yep.
like that.
As
and
far as
air.
I can remember, and you've just rewatched the show as well.
Yeah, I don't think they go into that
they ever
detail.
mention that. There are a couple of magic times where they like touch the ground and the ground erupts, but apart from that, that could be anything.
'Cause this is one of the, I don't say it is the first, but it's the first example in fantasy that people refer to as being the hard magic system.
This show is not at all a hard magic system.
No, obviously you have to respect Brandon Sanderson. His work rate, his impact. He is the modern great epic fantasist. He finished Robert Jordan's work. One of his rules, which I do agree with, is
Your ability to solve problems with magic in your books is directly proportional to how well the reader understands that magic.
I agree.
so with this, that's all they do. They throw the power around to solve a problem.
They throw wispy stuff around.
It just stops being interesting. And my theory is, and I base this on no logic at all, is that the average person doesn't like hard magic. So when you look at the popular modern fantasy stuff that's done well, Game of Thrones, it's Macbeth magic.
But those are all still harder magic systems than this show.
Well, they're not. Game of Thrones doesn't have someone throwing fireballs.
Correct.
Which is what this does.
But this is so vague, it's nonsensical.
That's it. The magic system is presented in a pretty flippant flashbang. Wow, isn't this fun?
Yeah. To the point where, according to this show, if you get the drop on someone, they're dead, which has never been used before. Like, if you get the first move, you can cut them in half with your air slice. You can immediately slit their throat like they do later in the streets. You can bring buildings down on top of them if you want to.
And then there's people immediately there like, shield us while we heal. Like
Yes.
it's League of Legends or whatever the equivalent would be.
But they
Like,
don't show it. They literally have to have someone shout out, how did she do that? And like, someone shielding her. Like, they have to use words to explain their silly magic light show. The ambulance seat's out there trying to fight because she's now in the street fighting as well. Because the fight that she lost up there has now moved onto the street because make it more interesting, I guess. That's what they're hoping for. So then we move onto the street and then 2 people stop her powers for a bit. And then instead of just killing her with the throat slit they used on her 2 offsiders, they instead try to crumble a building on top of her slowly so that Moraine can stop the building falling on her.
You go, oh, maybe they're not good with fireball magic. But you think if you want to attack someone, the slicing someone with air or having eviscerating fire would be the best moves. And then an audience member is going, why don't they just throw fireballs all the time?
And
do
even-
they get tired by this? And in the book, it's you can get tired. And if you take too much power, you can burn out. There is this element of you've got to pace yourself.
They do that in season 1, episode 1, and never again. Because Moraine gets
she
tired.
gets knackered,
and that's
yeah.
why you need a warder. That's how they explain it. Whereas in this, there's no real need for warders at all. In this fight, at the very least.
Why would they need warders?
Because at one point, the green lady, she runs forward and does like a triple backflip over a fireball and lands and then
I
kills
think
2
air
other
magic
people.
helped her.
It just looks silly.
They can kind of, I think they speak of like in ages past, people could manipulate air to fly.
Yeah, but it's just so out of the blue that this woman just like does acrobatics suddenly.
I understand what they're trying to do. They want you to go, wow, this is awesome.
That's what they want.
And look, it was the most I've been about the show.
I guess it's the most something that has ever happened.
Oh, God.
And the longest fight they've ever done, because usually it's either the Trolloc fight in episode 1, season 1, or Rand walks into a room, kills everyone, like in season 2. The weirdest thing about doing this massive, giant, Big Bang front thing is then we immediately cut from this to the gang all just hanging around laughing with each other. So the tonal shift is insane.
Moraine isn't in like 70% of the series. Robert Jordan was like, you can't have Gandalf around all the time because wouldn't he just solve all the problems?
Yep,
So-
literally fly you fools. Let's fuck off Gandalf in the first one because this is getting out of hand.
Even Tolkien did it, exactly. Like, you have to do that.
Well, you get rid of Obi-Wan immediately as well. You get rid of the
person who would solve the problems quickly.
that leads your person around, because this fish out of water story is completely muted by the fact that Moraine is with them all the time, can explain everything, show them everything, do everything for them.
She's barely a presence in book 2, and it's been a few hundred pages, and we haven't been back with Perrin from her perspective.
They would probably save $50 million not paying her as well.
Did they think we're all here going like, Rosamund Pike,
Rosamund
give us
Pike,
more
Rosamund
Pike?
Pike.
In my eyes, it should have been the first love of my life, Rachel Weisz.
She doesn't show any emotion most of the time anyway, so it's like she's not an interesting character to have on screen.
She's doing the Galadriel shit.
Even Galadriel, they were like, please take the ring, dude. You are a powerful god. Please take a ring. And Galadriel's like, no, that'd be like, I'd be too evil. You guys have to go do your own thing.
In this series, there is this compulsive need to give everyone something to do. So in season 2, Lan has been bonded with someone else. That is a brief conversation in book 2 of one of the, I think the only chapter from Lan's perspective, where she goes, hey, you know the way life goes, you might want to be bonded to someone else. So if I'm to die, you will automatically be bonded to her. And he's like, well, I don't want that. And that's kind of where it ends. But they continue on their adventure trying to find Rand. But we don't stick with her because who cares? It's Rand.
I thought they might solve that problem this season and focus more on Rand because he is the main character and all.
What is
and
it?
Because we've had so many good main character shows recently. Like
Invincible.
And like The Penguin as well really showed that, hey, if you focus in on one guy, it really helps.
What do you mean by that? What? You mean the way we've told stories forever
Well,
actually works?
before Game of Thrones, yes.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones ruined everything.
You're spoiling everything!
But no, then they immediately have the gang of 5, and I'm like, okay, maybe we're going to stick together, we're all going to do something, because they're talking about that they're all going to go to a place. But then it turns out that Moraine decides that she needs Rand to go to Tyr, and the reason he's not going to Tyr is because he's friends.
They want him to go to Tyr to basically get Excalibur.
But we don't see why the friends don't want to go. No one says, no, we don't want to go with Rand, that'd be crazy. But Moraine has decided and tells Lan that he won't go because of the friends. And then she conspires with Lanfear, who is a person she would never trust, never work with. Lanfear, I really enjoy as a character. I'd say she's probably the only interesting character.
All the Forsaken are interesting.
Well,
The weird web chick.
she's interesting, but we don't know anything about her. So she might be interesting.
Because she's just playing, she's not being a plain cardboard cutout.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like Lanfear actually has something to play with. The only thing I'd say against Lanfear is she's kind of settled away from what she was doing in season 2, and this season she's very much like, I'll do anything for Rand.
Which I think is, in the book, we know something's up with Selene when we meet her in book 2, but she's very much like, you're the Dragon Reborn, I'll always be with you. She was like Luciferian's like other woman, so she desperately wanted,
and the reason she came back. But Moraine's plan, which we don't know about at the time, but basically her plan is to get Lanfear to create magical things that are going to attack the whole gang. And that's going to somehow drive the gang apart so that they all go do their own things.
If it is in the book, it's probably better. And if it is in the book, it's because it's better.
It's because it's not, because this is nonsensical. Yeah, somehow attacking them is going to make them all split up. But Lanfear wasn't supposed to do anything too damaging. So basically, we're seeing the whole gang get attacked. Egwene's getting choked out. Mirror reflections are punching the shit out of Rand. And then downstairs, Matt's getting distracted.
By the cards, because he's seeing the heroes of old moving on the cards.
Because he's going through a whole thing that we'll talk about.
Yeah.
And then
oh, God.
Nynaeve starts getting stabbed by a random guy in the room. And we're like, this is a lot. And then we cut to Moraine just like, hold on, like, wait, let them get attacked. So you're like, what the fuck is happening? But not in like oh, what's up here? It's just confusing. I couldn't tell if she couldn't hear what was happening downstairs.
Really, because they didn't say it up properly and I was confused as well.
And then Lan hears that Nynaeve is being attacked. So they're in love, by the way, in case you forgot.
That's the one thing. The show doesn't, in the book, because we barely see much of Nynaeve's perspective in book 1, he just goes, oh, because they've been around each other for months and you haven't seen it, they've just fallen in love. And I'm like, what? We did. So the show tries to give a little bit more, but not nearly enough.
They had no chemistry in the other seasons, but like this one they at least make out, I guess.
This is fully and Robert's very objectifying, but it's like, I think it's fun on like, Egwene's pretty. But Nynaeve is fucking somehow even prettier, man. Like, yeah, I've highlighted twice because I came across it twice. Nynaeve folds her arms under her breasts. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to highlight this every time. Yeah.
Thank you, Goodreads. And yeah, so he runs down finally to help because apparently that we find out later that wasn't part of the plan. No one should have got actually hurt, despite the fact that Moraine is allowing the girl with PTSD to be choked out while Rand has to punch a mirror. Then they come down and help and like fix all the problem. And then somehow that breaks up the group. Everyone goes their own way. Like, fuck it. They're not supposed to get injured, right? And Perrin takes an axe to the hand, which breaks his ring, which I find funny because he's a blacksmith.
There's another one. Like, looks like he got killed in season 1, but then he full on gets stabbed by Padam Fane, does the whole,
Oh, but then they cut away.
Yeah, and then the next time we see him is in season 2, like, oh, off we go on another adventure.
But death doesn't matter in this universe, because twice in season 1, everybody in a room dies, and then they just magic heal them all. In the finale of season 1, when the 3 girls and all the others die, Nynaeve just heals them, and we're like, okay, cool. And earlier on, when not Jesus Christ, murders everyone in the room because he's a man and he's really strong. Nynaeve, again, just heals everyone. So death isn't a
She's
threat
a
in this
heel
world.
Explosion.
She does. She's that passionate.
All that doesn't happen in the books. Because they're trying to make it like, who's the dragon reborn? Maybe it's her.
There's actually a tension of death still.
This horrible bit where he goes, you wanted it to be Egwene, didn't you? It's like,
It's like, yes, I did.
And when the Amelin says in season 2, I wish you could have been a girl, it's like, what are we doing here?
Again, though, it would have solved all the problems. We wouldn't have a show if Rand was just a woman.
I think they just don't like, from a modern perspective, they don't like just how gendered this series is. Boys are this, girls are this.
Yeah. The gang all splits up. Perrin decides to go home.
Which is apparently in Shadow Rising.
But it doesn't make sense as to why he would choose it because he got an axe to the hand. That's not usually my prompt to go home. Also, that gets healed by magic immediately. Matt goes to get more healed because apparently he didn't get healed enough last time.
Well, it's to... Yes, in book 3, it's they're finally healing the knife problem. They did that in season 1 very quickly. I was like, hang on a minute.
Oh yeah, they like slurp it out
They're
of
like,
him.
wait a minute.
That's
this is going to be
actor.
way more of a big deal. What are we doing? Probably because the actor left and they had to make some changes.
And then Nynaeve and Egwene both have to go back to the tower to do more training.
But Egwene wants to go with Rand to the Aiel.
Which means she goes back to the tower for one scene and then comes back.
So she can become accepted.
Yeah, but like that means nothing to me. They're like, if you don't get this serpent ring, you can never come back. Why would she want to go back? I haven't seen them learn any magic in that place. I've seen them mop floors.
The only scene of them learning magic was when they were in the kitchen and the woman was like, drink the dirty water without...
Oh, yes, that was potion class, basically.
Yeah.
All the while this is going on, 2 new characters.
The Aiel women.
Yes.
The Fremen, but...
We get Fremen.
Who are looking for the Lisan al-Gaib, basically.
Literally, they even say it.
He's inspired by it.
Oh, you're Lisan al-Gaib?
But from what I understand, there's like 13 tribes, and my friend tells me, everyone says the Aiel are fucking sick in the books. Because in the Fremen in the Dune book are just like one big huge tribe, and this is like 13 unique tribes. Basically, I think similar to what George did with the wildlings. Like there's all these different tribes and different cultures.
What annoys me immediately about the Aiel is that they live 1 week away from this bustling city.
This is what's
and they're
annoying
struggling
me.
for water. But we'll go back to stupid ass geography very soon. Trust me. So basically they've immediately broken the gang back up, which voided the entire start of the episode for me. I'm like, why bring them together? And Elaine has a scene with our new desert woman. It's the first time we've ever seen these 2 people talk, but they reference the boat and how that they used to see each other every morning in the boat.
Oh, God.
I was immediately like, oh no, they're doing chemistry, they're doing sex.
I messaged Lachlan. I said, "Oh, Elaine and an Aiel chick hook up in book 1." And he goes, "What?" Because that's like, what is this?
Yeah, because all their bonding is because they met on a boat. They have
She's meant to be bonding with Rand. They are not going to do the free wife thing in this show. They
talk to
will
Rand.
not do it.
She flirts with Rand later.
But she talks to Rand like she's known him.
Yes, because they've
that boat.
spent a month on the boat.
In book 1, it's so cool because he climbs in a tree and accidentally falls into... It's like a fairy tale.
It's a meet-cute.
He falls into the castle and meets the princess. Like, it's a very fairy tale, but it's that Taviran thing. And he meets Galad and Gawain. He couldn't have just gave them all different names. Like, fuck me. That, like, she likes Gawain, hates Galad. I'm only remember it because she hates Galad because he's too much of a lad.
They're both pompous douchebags.
Not in the book. We will get to that. I will have a 5-minute rant about the Matt scene. Oh...
We get some cutaways occasionally to these 2 people just like having sex on the roof. They don't show anything. It's not too egregious, but it's not just implied. Like Elaine mounts her and then we do the hand up the leg. Hilarious because it's just so out of nowhere and their only reference to their relationship is, I used to see you every morning on the boat. Damn, wouldn't it be good if we fuck? I have heard that in the book they are like sisters and that they're so close.
It's same with Moraine and the Amelin. They're not in a relationship. They're just very close.
You can't do that twice.
You could maybe have it in the text that they are, but no, I don't think anyone's gay in the books because it's a man of the 90s, yeah. So
everyone should just be dating Rand. What are they thinking?
That's what
Don't they know
said.
Rand exists? I get what they're doing. They're getting the whole like, oh, 2 people in history that they said, oh, they were just very good friends. Like they were probably fucking.
But they're acting like we're really into it, that there's people who've watched the show and only show going, woo, Elaine.
But they did that with the ambulance seat and Moraine, and now they're doing it again with these two chicks. If two people are incredible friends and they'd like die for each other, they don't always have to be banging. Like,
you can show connection between people without it being sex.
yeah, like Sam and Frodo. There are people in the fandom that say they want to bang, but like there's no indication, and they do just want to die for each other. Like they just love each other that way, and I think that's nicer.
And also, it's very much because Tolkien was in the war with his friends.
Yes, he didn't want to fuck every single soldier. He had things to do.
Yeah.
Especially because this is happening the night that people died in the street. They're like, the White Tower exploded.
The symbol of power.
Yeah, like the White House got blowed up.
Yeah.
And then everyone's just like, we should all go drinking. They they went drinking immediately after Moraine was like, don't let anybody know who you are. Please keep this a secret. So then Matt walks around going, my mate's the dragon. I've got a horn. La, la, la.
Yeah.
And then no one calls him out on it. They're all just like, they're being season 1 teens that have been through nothing.
I can't tell if I like Matt's new outfit or if he looks like Hugh Hefner.
I need to talk about the outfits too. Jesus Christ.
Oh, mate, yeah. Oh, dude, wild.
So, I don't understand what the fuck
What timeline
Wheel
we're-
of Time
where
is
we are.
doing. I also don't understand what city we're in because all the cities look identical.
Oh, yeah, the Tarvalon set, I think, was also the set for Shadow Lagoth in season 1.
Oh, the Shadow City that Trollocs won't go into?
Yeah, the Mines of Moria, basically.
Yes, literally. It's like immediately as
Which
well.
is his point.
Outfits. They're all well made. They all look nice. But there's no consistency at all between anyone.
Exactly. When you look at Game of Thrones, George Martin, and they were like, oh, it's like King Arthur's England.
And you got rich people, you got poor people, and then each house wears different clothes depending on where they're
And
from.
House of the Dragon, they've added in the coloured livery.
Which helps.
He's inspired by that classic high medieval that never really happened, like kind of Tudor England, but it's King Arthur.
Which episode 2 of this show is also inspired by, because suddenly it's Game of Thrones for the opening 20 minutes. I'm going to show you a photo of Rosamund Pike, and you're going to tell me not even what show she's in, what genre of show she's in.
That hat, it's like, are we like an
That
old
is a love
grand
story.
farmer? Yeah.
That hat is so well made by modern technology, and it's my wife owns that hat.
The world is described like if Game of Thrones is like a high medieval situation.
Yeah.
This is described as like a late medieval, early pre-Renaissance. But then because this is also a world that is existing in the depth of a former modern world.
But have they discovered any? Because we don't see any tech. I don't see any old architecture.
But they don't emphasize enough, even in the books they don't.
They don't do post-apocalyptic where
No, they
like,
don't lean into
there's
that
a
much.
bridge underground or like you can see the remains of something. It looks like it should be medieval. But then we have Min walking in a pantsuit. We have people in episode 3, half the people look like they're 1800s prospectors.
Yeah, the show doesn't have a vibe.
It has no identity.
When you begin Game of Thrones, that shit, it's cold, you get it. You go, oh, I get it. It's medieval shit. I understand. And that's what people expect from a fantasy thing. And it just has that. It has the amazing score. The score in this is just all over the place.
There's random Lion King chanting.
it's
Like that
odd.
whole mountain range
Makes sense.
scene.
When I'm reading the book, I'm listening to Skyrim ambience.
Yep.
That's the vibe of Wheel of Time for me, is Skyrim ambience.
I'm not a soundtrack person, so if I notice the soundtrack, it's either really good or really bad. And the egregious Lion King chanting while
Yeah.
Rand's wandering the mountainside, which is a good mountainside poorly shot.
Yeah.
Because even Rings of Power manages to bring back some of that Lord of the Rings New Zealand feel.
New Zealand rocks.
They have all the rocks, the scenery is nice, but then they don't show it well at all, despite all our new drone technology and everything.
Yes, there is no consistency amongst even the characters, what they're wearing or anything.
Yeah, because Min's in a pantsuit, everyone's wearing like way too many collared shirts. It looks like they've wandered off other sets, accidentally ended up on the Wheel of Time set as extras.
Which is a shame because in the books already, but I know that all these countries are very defined by their fashion, by their culture.
Land. It was actually everyone was Chinese. And like that was the most vibey this show has gotten.
Oh, Faldara, but
Faldara.
he's the king of Malkir.
So when they go to Faldara, it's basically Great Wall starring Matt Damon, where like they're an ancient Chinese civilization that have to defend
the Dragon
it.
Wall.
Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
actually
it's
that was
sweet.
one of the best parts of the show because it made sense.
It makes sense.
I'm like, okay, Chinese dynasty built around it, like they have to protect the wall.
I get
cool. That makes sense to me.
I think George Martin was like, huh.
I like walls.
Yeah, but that's because it's based on like Hadrian's Wall in real life. Hadrian's Wall, sorry.
Yeah, and Great Wall of China as well.
The problem is we don't understand physical space, which is weird because in Lord of the Rings it doesn't really matter. But everyone is going somewhere.
Yes.
We're going in that direction to Mordor. So as long as we're moving forward, we're moving forward.
And you get really impressive miniatures of every place you're going.
And we also, at the start of the film series, we see a map of Middle-earth.
It does help, yeah.
So, and Game of Thrones, obviously we have the intro, but also the way he designed that world where it's Scotland and Ireland flipped upside down. It's a thin country, north, south.
And also, if I show you anywhere in Game of Thrones, you'll understand it, whereas here,
Yes.
they've decided
Very
to go
good
with
point.
teal and orange for everywhere. So all their skin is bright orange, and then all the background is this murky blue, no matter where you are. Not even the White Tower looks fancy.
Exactly.
You'd think the White Tower would be like Rivendell. It doesn't have to be, but I'm saying like, you know Rivendell when you see it. Whereas all of this show looks identical. And then like they're on this random mountain range, and then they're
Absolutely
walking through
right.
the Aiel Waste, which is 1 week away from civilization. And the Aiel are saying, people kill each other over water out here. My guy, walk 3 days.
Yeah, I'm sure it's described and made more sense in the book.
If it's bigger and maybe they used a portal and then it was a week's walk, I don't know.
But also, I think it's meant to be without trying to get it's their land, it's their culture, all that stuff.
But if you're all dying, come on, man.
But also, I think that was the whole Aiel War was about that. Was them going, we need to form together and leave this place. And they were told, no, fuck off. So that's partly it too.
Would be lovely if we got explained. Especially when they rock up and there's like the wagons that like they don't look like old timey wagons. Rings of Power features a wagon in like episode 1 or 2. The wagon that Venom Sauron attaches himself to looks like a medieval wagon. The wagons they feature in episode 3 of this show look like 1800s prospector wagons. And I'm like,
Yes.
fucking why? It's the biggest problem for me.
Obviously, it's a fantasy world. Joe Abercrombie, he has a place called simply The North, and it's basically like Vikings, Scottish chieftains. And there's a bit where a character runs through glass in like a Jarl's hall, and he went, they wouldn't have glass, would they? Shit, they wouldn't have glass. Then he went, fuck, it's fantasy, they have glass.
The people walking the streets of these towns all look completely different. Half of them look like they're from the Middle East. The other half look like they're from like Victorian London.
When they walk into the wedding, oh god, one of them looks Victorian. You're right, looks Victorian London.
I was so annoyed at that the whole time.
The show needs to have a consistent look for
Yep.
sure.
Which is insane because you hire someone to do that.
Why do all these other shows manage it?
I'm sure maybe they're good at it, and Rafe just gave them this vague brief and said whack people and whatever. Like,
Yeah, because they've got the information of Robert Jordan's world because he was very detailed. Like, oh, they're from here, but to us as viewers watching it, we're like, why are they dressed like that? Why are they dressed like that? Isn't this a fantasy show? And because we have our own preconceived notions of fantasy, we're confused.
as much shit that we give the Witcher Netflix series for not having its own style, it at least has a consistent style.
Yeah, apparently it's getting worse for the next season.
Oh no. The only place that looks different is Andor, and that was only the throne room that we saw in Andor, where they'd basically just do the Red Wedding.
Well, she's got line banners. She can just be female Tywin.
Like, episode 2 is Game of Thrones, they decided, for the intro.
In the book, she's the queen, but she's the queen just through good political maneuvering. She isn't murdering
not,
people in her courtroom. That whole sequence, when they get back to the tower in book 3, like, your mum came in, we had to kick her off. So in this, because they've condensed things, they're like, oh no, the mum is here now, and they're talking, so we get to see some of those scenes with the chick from Dune.
The queen I half expected to be the queen from Dune, Prophecy, and from The Witcher.
Oh, right,
just
yeah.
because she's doing the exact same
She's
thing
doing the
again.
exact same.
I'm like, it could just be her.
That would have been funny as fuck.
What's weird about her is when they rock up and Elaine is talking about her family, she's like, oh, I hate when my family rocks up because they're always scheming. They're always doing something. No one does any scheming, and then the mum leaves.
Yeah.
The only one that might be doing any scheming is Shonra Agardashalu.
Yeah, Ladia will be as we're seeing already, a pretty big antagonist.
Yeah.
We got to go get Rand.
Yeah, she's being the way I would expect her to be.
Yes.
So she might be entertaining to watch, but not from a story perspective. Just
A good cast. She's a very good actress.
she's always good to watch. Whether they give her anything interesting to do, I don't know.
They're condensing things, the stuff that Nynaeve is doing with Elaine. They're trying to figure out exactly what went on with the Black Arger, because the Amelins went, you're the only ones I can trust because, you haven't been here long enough.
Yeah.
So I need you to figure this out for me because we don't know who's who. You can't even trust me.
You're my new internal investigations department.
So the three of them are trying to figure stuff out, and the book is basically everybody is building in on going to Rand at Calendor to get Calendor from Tyr, because Rand's plot line from the one POV we have so far in the book is he's fucking freaking out. He's going a bit mad. His dreams are being haunted by all these people. And he's like, if I am the dragon, I'll get the sword and great. But if I'm not the dragon, I'll die and it'll be over.
Oh, so he's still not sure if he's the dragon.
Well, he knows he is, but he's just so like, because he's 19, 20.
Trying to prove that he's not.
He's like, if I'm not, then I'll just die and all this will be over. And if I am, then I'm the dragon. I have to roll with it.
Yeah.
From what I know, Rand in the book, he is for a lot of people one of the greatest characters in epic fantasy.
He's so stupid in this.
He's so stupid
he went
in
from
this.
a whiny little teen in seasons 1 and 2, like, oh, I don't want to
Nothing,
do this.
just poorly
I don't want to do
acted,
this.
poorly performed.
And then in season 3,
He's like, you can't tell me what to do.
yeah, he's a badass now.
In the book, it's more like he's screaming, "What? Why are you telling me what to do?" Like he's freaking out the whole time, and because whenever he walks out of his tent, everyone bows, and he's like, "Fuck!" Like he just can't get it right.
Yeah, so he's a lot more like Timothy Chalamet's
Yeah.
Paul Atreides. How when people like listen Al Gaib, he's like, "Whoa, man!"
Yeah.
like I'm not Jesus.
But then on top of that, he's also going insane because of the one power.
Whereas in this, he's not going insane
Yet.
but he does have a couple of monologues where he's like a little bit Anakin Skywalker. I can feel the power.
What I'm told is what's so interesting about the character is he's constantly like, "Am I going mad yet?" Like that's what's interesting. He knows it's coming.
Season 2 tries to do that where he's like, "Am I crazy? Are you
Yeah.
even real?" But like they don't bother.
They're speeding through all that, so now they're like, "Oh, we have to go to Tanchico."
Is that Tortuga?
What?
Like from Pirates of the Caribbean? Because everyone's like smoking on the street and everyone's wearing scarves. The baddies are there and the shorter woman has like shaved her sides because she's evil now.
That made me laugh. I'm reading the book, so he's pretty good at he holds your hand quite a lot.
I complain about this all the time. I even whinged about it a bit in Severance, cutting between everything constantly. Whereas in the book, I assume you get the POV of Rand for
Yeah.
a chapter or two. Whereas in this, you would get 2 pages. Some of these characters, you get half a page of script, and then we're on to a completely
That's
different
it. Like
location.
Rand is the dominant POV of the first 2 books significantly.
Yeah, whereas in this, we're barely on anyone.
Yeah.
Because Perrin,
It's your least favorite thing. It's 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there.
too many fucking characters.
But they're all doing nothing.
Yes.
Which is the problem.
That's why we keep having to cut away, because you get bored with one character, we go to a new one that's also doing nothing.
So right now, the stuff I'm reading is in the White Tower. It's Matt POV and it's Egwene and Nynaeve POV. And what's interesting is there might be more Black Arger here, so they're constantly trying to figure out who it is.
Sounds like it would be any of the Harry Potter books where there's
Yeah.
a mystery in a castle.
Yeah,
Moraine wants me to go to Tyr.
Tyr is a country and part of their culture to do with their history. They don't like the one power because they think the one power is like it fucked them over, whatever. So they're like, if anyone shows any magic, just get the fuck out of here. We don't want to hear from you. So Rand going there to be like, I'm here to get the sword. I'm fucking pumped.
Why is he in the Isle Waste then? What's he gone there for?
In this, he's gone there because he wants to prove that he is Listener Gaib to the Aiel. And I think in the book, I think he goes there after he has the sword. So then him rocking up there, it's probably a bit more like,
It's a bit more like Sword.
and we'll see where we go.
So he's going to a place to tell people something.
To prove that he is the king of king or whatever, what they said, the leader of leader.
Moraine is there to sit in a sweat lodge naked, get really warm, and then look at a random boob and go, "Oh, I should bang her, maybe it'll make me feel better." And then her and Lan are like, "Ha ha ha." But then Lan sees a tattoo and then Lan is like,
Because it's to do with his culture. whatever.
yeah. He's like, "Why are you white? But my culture."
It's an 8-episode season and we've effectively seen half of it, nearly.
Yeah. And it's already a blur.
And it's already blurred in together. I don't think the first 2 seasons looked particularly great. I think for this, they've got the different cinematographers in. The camera work seems a little bit nicer. The lighting seems stronger. The grade seems a bit more defined.
I don't love the grade whenever they're inside, but I think because they're maybe in the waste, they're being a little bit more interesting with some of the nature shots. But yeah.
Only time in this show I went, oh, was when Egwene is having when she goes through the arches and there's a shot of Rand. We see the back of Rand in the water and the water looks red. And it's just, that's the only time I went, oh,
They're trying.
That's actually a nice shot.
Good on 'em.
Like, composition. Like, look at this.
Never heard of it. Perrin goes back to hometown and spends episodes 2 and 3 going, do I turn myself in? And then everyone goes, do it. And then he goes, okay. And then everyone goes, actually, don't do it. And then he says, oh, the Trollocs are coming. We should maybe all stay together. It's just him doing nothing. And then we have Matt.
Okay, I need to go.
Yeah, I'll let you go on your little Matt
sorry.
rant, because Matt is getting healed in the White Tower and flirting with girls.
So Matt, in the first 2 books, we don't really get POVs from him at all. He's in the first book, he's going kind of more crazy because of the knife, and the second book, we don't see much of him because he's preparing. And when they finally do meet up, he's getting worse and worse. The knife's been taken with the horn, so he will be fine as long as the knife's with him until he gets to the White Tower. Then they can separate him. But because the knife gets taken from him, he's getting weaker and weaker.
Whereas in season 2, he spent that whole thing in a prison cell.
Yes, because the actor left the show and they wanted to make a whole new story for him, I guess.
Yeah, they needed to have the new actor in the show, but they didn't have anything for him to do, so they put him in a prison cell next to
I
Min.
wish they just simply got rid of that actor and just had it at the back of his head.
Yeah.
And when we get to Faldara, he's like, I feel funny, and then he disappears, and then we can begin with him in Faldara in season 2. But in the book, he finally gets to the White Tower and they separate him from the knife. So he's like just eating because he's getting his strength back. But it's revealed he's basically the same way Rand is a dragon reborn. He's the king of Miniferin, which is where Emmonsfield is. Like it's a former country from 1,000 odd years ago that got lost in the Trolloc Wars.
Whereas in this, he is just one of the hero fighters that the
and
Horn
magically
can call.
knows how to use the staff.
I'm okay with that because they made him one of the heroes.
Would you like to hear an even better way?
Sure.
Would you like to hear that? In the books, they all come from lovely households. Matt, in particular, looks up to his dad, loves his dad to bits, which, to be honest with you, as someone who also looks up to my dad and loves him to bits, it's really nice. And it made me go, in one chapter, I was like, Matt is fucking cool.
Yeah.
Because I can relate to this. I grew up in a small village and loved my dad too. And you don't see that a lot in fantasy.
Was he a degenerate gambler in the thing?
He plays games, but he's not degenerate.
Okay.
Oh, the dad's just like a horse
either of
trader.
them.
Yeah, the dad's just a good horse trader who is really good with a quarterstaff. So because Matt loves his dad, and all he thought is that all I'm going to be in life is a horse trader. So he learns quarterstaff stuff.
Okay.
And at like Beltane or whatever, they have like a quarterstaff competition. So it's part of their culture. That people are good with the old staffs because they're farmers. It visually makes
They've got
sense.
sticks.
There's this amazing scene, and I loved it when I read it, that Matt finally gets out of bed and he's figuring out how can he get out the White Tower because he's very suspicious of the Aes Sedai. Nynaeve in the books is still hating Moraine. She's like, Moraine has fucked everything up. In the show, that is not the case. Nynaeve's just like, I wish I could channel better. I wish I could bone Lan. And in this, it's like, I'm still the wisdom and I have to look after these people because Moraine fucked it up.
There is about 30 seconds where she becomes Matt's mum again. And I'm like, you were the mum of the group, weren't you?
Yeah, because she's meant to be like, they're all like 18. She's like 22.
Yeah.
So she's a little bit older. And she's the wisdom. So she's meant to be the leader of the village. So she has that in her character. So Matt, looking about the tower, just trying to get his bearings, comes across the warder training area and sees Galad and Gawain training, and they're with all the other warders.
Galad and Gawain are Elaine's brothers, who are both fuckboys in this.
And going to be warders.
Oh, they're going to be warders?
Yeah, they're trained to be warders.
I thought they were just princes that were fuckboys because they have a shirtless fight and then all the girls are like, oh.
Yeah.
And then we cut to a scene of Matt lying on his back and then we just hear fuck noises because
it's the worst.
Both brothers are just banging everyone in the tower.
So old Matt is connected to the horn, and providing he doesn't die, he's the only one where the horn will work. We know that. But Matt goes to this warder and decides, not because he hates them or because he's jealous because they get to bang the girls or he's annoyed by them like he has in the show. He just decides for a friendly wager because he wants a bit of money because he wants to try and figure out how to get out. Says, I reckon I could beat both of you with the quarterstaff. And very quickly dismantles them because they underestimate him. Because they're like, who's this loser with a quarterstaff? And they go, you're really good with that. He goes, oh, not as good as my dad, which is awesome. So cute. It's meant to be just this lovely moment. It's earned.
Yeah.
It feels better. Matt is good with his staff because he loves his dad. And that to me is way more interesting than Matt's good with the staff because it's in his blood.
Because he has magic horn that also makes him talk in the old tongue, which sounds a lot like Valyrian.
Yeah, and there's this, because they don't do it, but there's a bit where Matt flashes back to that Trolloc War where his old self died, and he says in the old tongue, another roll of the dice, which explains why he always has the dice on him.
I've never seen a dice in this one. He has cards occasionally. That's all the characters. They do nothing in this 3 episodes. We watch more than a Lord of the Rings movie.
Yes.
And they didn't even get from point A to point B.
Which has been the problem with the whole show. We just don't feel like there's any forward momentum.
Well, especially because we had the sword. Like, the book says we're going to go get the sword. This season could be go get sword, and we would have direction.
It could be interesting stuff with Rand.
But instead it's we're going to go into desert.
Yeah, and the ultimate problem is they don't want it to be about Rand, but then since they're not making it about Rand, they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Is my ultimate problem. Now, if you like the show, I genuinely am curious. Is there anyone out here who's watching the show and not reading the books because they feel immersed in the show? I'm happy. I'd love to know. I am watching good TV shows. I just watched Adolescence, was amazing. I'm watching Slow Horses, is incredible. I'm enjoying White Lotus. I enjoy good TV. I'm not just sitting here watching stuff to moan about it online. And this show, at the very least, has made me enjoy these books, so it's done something.
We're about to run out of film, so we're just going to call it here. We barely touched on a lot of these 3 episodes, but that's because basically nothing happens in them. Like, there's a lot of tiny little things that they do that mean absolutely nothing in the long run. Like, we get introduced to the gunslingers or whatever they are in like episode 3, like Perrin's new girlfriend that is named after a horse.
Looks like she at one point looked like she's wearing a hoodie, like she has lace.
It's all too real, and it's just terrible. But I'm interested to see what you guys think and if you like it.
And I'm going to continue to read the book. I'm hoping by this time next week I'll be on Shadow Rising, so I'll be able to talk a bit more about what is currently happening, even though they are using stuff from Dragon Reborn book 3.
Yeah. And we will only have 1 episode to cover, which will be a lot easier to go through.
Yeah.
Because 3 hours and 10 minutes is... I don't know why Amazon does this. It's nonsensical. There's no way it helps.